Now, the Bram Weinstein Show on Washington's new home for sports, ESPN 630.
Hey, baby. Hey, baby. Hi, everyone. Big game in my house tonight. It's my house, everybody. Muriel says so. It's my house, everybody.
My house. Whose house? Ted's house.
Ted's house. And everybody loves me. Right, David? Everybody loves me.
Hey, you said it out loud. I mean, look.
I called that months ago. Well, I've called it years ago.
We
Gotta love Ted. Gotta love him
You
up.
can't fault Ted for being honest. He's been honest every step of the way.
Pretty much, yeah. You still like me, right? Oh, if I go to Virginia, you won't like me. Well, I'll do a U-turn then. Louise.
He didn't like being a political prop.
No.
He hated that, actually. That seems to be actually the sticking point.
Political prop. I mean, he's the one who chose to do this. What did he just thought they were just going to let him do it. Okay.
Did this whole plan look really well thought out to you?
Well, it was a beautiful plot of land they had out there.
Sure, that was about it. That's where about started and ended.
Those renderings were pretty.
Yeah, that was about it, though.
The crazy flooded garage, bad idea.
Route we said garage on stilts.
Yeah, garage on stilts. The water taxi business we were about to start to get the games. Yes. The Route 1 is only 2 lanes, guys. It's going to be a problem.
What would be the solution to traffic?
Yeah.
What does that even mean?
Parking at National Airport doesn't exist for this. So
that's what I'm saying. It doesn't sound like it was well thought out.
Then there's all the people in Old Town that are like, I don't know, maybe, sorta. I'm not sure.
Old Town Wizards doesn't have a good ring to it.
Old Town Squires. Old Town Squires was a good name. With Old Town across the chest? Oh, that's good. I like that.
Once again, just putting out in the ether, anyone that has a Monumental Opportunity t-shirt.
You want that.
Slide into the DMs, cash in hand.
Yeah, if you give it to me, I'll give it to Michael because I don't want it.
I want one so bad.
It is a good piece of Washington sports history.
There's not a lot
of these moments.
There's not a lot that comes along anymore.
If you could get me anything that says Raljon on it, I would like to have that.
No. I do have going through programs when my parents moved down to Myrtle Beach. My brother and I found a sheet of paper that had the season ticket pricing on it with the address of FedEx Field that says Raljon, Maryland.
Oh.
So there's a printed, we made sure to save it. It was a printed piece of paper from the team that says Raljon.
You know what I tell you that I have that I'm going to frame at some point? I have the letters. I have the letters that Dan Snyder wrote to the season ticket holders, and I printed them out.
Never changing the name, right?
Yeah, never changing the name, explaining. And then the second one of explaining why they were doing what they were doing. So I have both of them. I have them. I should frame them because they're pretty good. They're actually well reasoned. If you read them, they're not that interview he did on TV.
No,
they're actually
sure.
well reasoned. They're like, we talked to these people, we did this. This is part of our history. We don't mean it that way. Like it was very actually well reasoned.
Yeah,
not
right.
how you picture them. Not how you very well reasoned letter that he wrote.
There are a few things that come along that I want to add to the collection because unfortunately with Fanatics around, no actual gear is worth anything. It's all used cars. The second you buy it, it's worth a quarter of what you paid for it. But that Monumental Opportunity shirt,
If there were ever any renderings of the other alternate names for the Wizards, like Sea Dogs, if there was any of that, that would be good. I'd want that. I can't believe this. I lost it. I had one of the pins with the wrong crest dates.
You lost that?
It fell off my backpack.
No!
It's gone.
I have one that you gave me. I can give it back to you if you'd like it.
It's fine. You can have it.
All right.
It's fine.
It's still in the plastic.
It was
I never
an
took it
interesting
out.
piece that I kept because I'm like, well, that one's going to be, that's an interesting one to keep. Because
No,
they
of course.
altered it. But I had the original one with the dates.
It's very fast that got altered,
It took a couple weeks of people yelling.
I think it took a week. No, I think it was literally less than a week.
Yelling, like, hey, this isn't right. This is, they're like, yes, technically they won in 1992. Yes, technically you're right. No one calls it that. So they're like, no one calls it that. Just do what we say.
I'm trying to think, simple memorabilia-wise, there's not a lot else besides that's come along. Because what else has been significant? I mean,
we haven't had any good ones. Yeah, we haven't had any good ones lately.
No, there hasn't. And like I said, Fanatics has made it so everything's available. Like rare things that you can't buy now. That shirt falls underneath it.
I'd like to get a college football Super League shirt because that may or may not happen. So there's one.
Fantastic.
Super League.
Super League.
Yeah, Super League. All right, we're going to get to all that today.
Yeah.
Let me start with we're 3 weeks away from the draft. You've officially put down your I want this over with because you're done talking about it.
Yeah.
I agree with you. I'm a little analysis paralysis for me, too, at this point. I landed on what I thought they should do like 6 weeks ago. So for me, I've just been riding the roller coaster of, oh, my God, they like JJ that much? You know, like I've been riding that.
Right.
But I landed weeks ago where I'm like, if it's up to me, I know who I'd take with a caveat, with a major caveat of I don't know him. I never met him.
Yeah.
You know, and that stuff's important. And like that goes into this, you know, when you're going to pick somebody to be your franchise face, you should get to know them and know everything about them.
Sure.
All I'm going off of is what I would ever go off of any year, which is I just watch the film and this is what I see. And if I'm just judging just off of that, which is most of it, I think, in most cases, if it's just off of that, I'm taking Jayden Daniels. But that's just me and that's my preference. And I've remained on the fence because I'm not making that decision and I'll be rooting for whoever they take. And if it's Drake May, fine. You know, like, I'm all right. Like, I'm not down on it. Like, if they turn around and pick Bo Nix at 2, I'm going to be surprised. I'm going to have to stay quiet for a day or two. I'm going to have to be told why. And then I'm going to have to get on board with it, you know, like with anything else. But I don't think they're going to really, really shock me and do anything like that. So, you know, it's steamrolling towards where I thought the conclusion would be, assuming that Jayden is a good person, which, you know, I think all these boxes are like, I said this the other day, you know, this decision gets easier if there's I don't know about that guy, narrative about somebody. And none of them have that. None of them.
Right.
Drake May doesn't have it. Jayden Daniels doesn't have it. I don't think Caleb Williams has it. There's been the red flags of who's in his ear, and some people don't like pink fingernail polish. But like outside of that, you can't seem to find any real problem with any of them.
Yep.
So it does make the decision, you know, good and bad. It's easier when you've got I don't know if I trust that guy.
Yeah.
Put his play aside for a minute. I don't know if I trust that guy. And I don't think we have that with anybody.
Right.
None of them. McCarthy, Nix, for that matter, Penix. You don't hear that about any of them. There's no, like, I'm not expecting a draft night gas mask bong video to pop up for any of these guys. Like, I don't expect it.
And even if that does happen, history has now said that doesn't matter.
Yeah.
And that's a hit job. That don't listen to whatever that is.
All-time hit job.
Because Larry
All-time hit
Tunsil
job.
turned out to be a Hall of Fame level tackle.
That's right.
And was fine.
Yes.
And no one cares about a bong video.
Well, as it turned out, all the money he lost that night, he got back and then some on contracts 2 and 3.
Right, exactly.
But it was an all-time hit job when that one happened. That was an all-time hit job.
Right.
Anyway.
Right. Well, by the way, next year, I'm going to try to remember this. I'm going to try to predict out the topics each week leading up to the draft, because I've actually been pretty spot on with it lately. When we got through the combine and it got to the point where everyone assumed Jayden Daniels is going 2, I said, okay, it's JJ's time. And what was it for like 2 weeks?
2 weeks.
Oh, JJ's actually good. And then I literally on my show said, well, we're not hearing much about JJ. Is Michael Penix coming next week? And what's been all this week? Well, Penix is really good. In fact, I think he's going to go in the first half of the draft now. People get bored.
I
think start talking up everybody. It's getting so annoying.
I'm pretty convinced we've got 5 quarterbacks in the top 15.
Okay, that's fine. But
that's going to happen.
It's still
like
funny.
not unlike what happened a couple years ago with the Mac Jones, Trey Lance, Justin Fields, Lawrence, Zach draft. I think it's going to happen again. Like, the top 3 are going to be quarterbacks, one way or the other. The question is whether New England trades out or not. But if they do trade out, it will be to somebody who wants a quarterback.
Yeah.
So the top 3 are going to be quarterbacks. Then Arizona is going to weigh offers. And if they don't get the one they like, they're going to take Marvin Harrison or Malik Neighbors. That's going to happen. And then the Chargers will be in the same spot where they'll go, what are the offers? Or we'll take, the other receiver or a tackle or whatever we want. I saw a quote from Harbaugh saying, I feel like we're walking into getting the number 1 pick in the draft, which I thought was really an interesting way to put it. Because he's like, we are in the enviable position of we don't need a quarterback, and everyone else above us is going to take one, which means we will get whoever we think is the best position player, not a quarterback, at 5.
Yeah.
And that's actually rare that you get the opportunity to do that. And if it isn't a defensive player, I think the team that's going to get the steal of all steals is Atlanta, who's sitting at 8 and is going to take the best defensive player on the board at 8. That's amazing.
Yep.
That is almost never happens. That's amazing that's a possibility for them that they're going to get that.
Yeah.
So that's pretty good. But we're steamrolling towards it because the word of God, Schefter, said it. Schefter said it today. that what I'm hearing is, it was just the same thing everybody is, we kind of landed on. What I'm hearing is it's this. And then right off of that was everybody who's a pundit had to weigh in and say, well, I said it too.
Yeah, right.
So I think we're all now, like, it's all coming together. We're coalescing around the reality of what I've seen for weeks, and that's just watching the film going, I don't know how they're going to turn him down. I don't think it's like that May's a bad prospect. And in fact, if that's the way they went, I'll feel optimistic about it. But I think if you just watch this guy play, you're going to be hard-pressed not to pick him.
Right.
And, like, put fits and all that stuff aside, his progression as a player from Arizona State to LSU. If you read this piece, did you read the Players Tribune piece he wrote?
I did not.
He wrote a Players Tribune piece. There really was, I would have read it, but I read it yesterday. There really wasn't much in it that's like newsworthy.
Okay.
It actually was a very long piece on all the people I want to thank for getting me into this position. And he talked about his grandfather. He talked about his parents. He talked about his high school teammates. He talked about his upbringing, where he said, he did have one interesting line in it where he said he and his friends, they were obviously a very good football team because he was the quarterback of the football team. I think they won a state championship or something.
Yep.
And he said that someone, I can't remember if it was a coach or a family member, said, or his grandfather may have said to them, and it was a really interesting line. He said there were like 3 of them in the car. They're going to a game. And he said to them, some of you are going to end up, going to college and being big stars. And so one of you is going to end up having a kid really early, and one of you is going to get in trouble. And Jayden Daniels goes, amazingly, that happened. He's like, and he described it as, I'm the lucky one. I didn't go a different direction. I don't have children,
Sure.
Not that's a bad thing, but like could have, derailed this idea and this dream of getting to where you want to get to. And he's like, unfortunately, and he's like, basically, he's like, trust me, I had opportunities to take the wrong path. I didn't. And I stuck to this, and this is what I wanted to do. And he goes, it's amazing how right this person was about what our futures were. And thanks to him and thanks to advice like that, here I am, thanks to hard work. And the other thing that really stood out about what he said was, and this is a little bit like, I think what Jalen Hurts is getting a little bit, where his demeanor might give off the wrong impression about him.
Sure,
and
right.
He's had to kind of address that. So when they're winning, he's just stoic and it doesn't matter. But when they're losing, people start to question what's up with this guy.
Yep.
And Daniels basically said, don't get it confused about me. Just because I'm kind of nice and easygoing and not like in your face and screaming, that I'm not extremely competitive.
K9.
Right, K9. Deep down, there's a canine.
Got that dog in him.
He's got that dog in him. He wanted to make that very clear, too.
All right, I like that.
But the vast majority of it was just thanking people in his life, including a very long piece about Herm Edwards, basically describing him as like a family member and how he brought him along and how wonderful he was to him. Went on and on about Brian Kelly, said all these really great things about Brian Kelly. But it was just a long thank you list to, I don't know where I'm going to get drafted, but I know it's going to be very high, and I want to thank all you all for allowing me to be in this position and helping me get there. That's all it really was. And it was, that's reassuring to read that, because like he's introspective, he understands the position he's in, he's thankful for all the things that he has, but he wanted to remind people too, while it takes a village, you also have to be really talented and care. And I want you all to know that I am very talented and I care.
Of course.
So that was reassuring to read that. There's nothing newsworthy, but it was interesting just to hear his perspective on where he was, where he is, and how he thinks he got there and what it means to him. Because I think that's what everybody wants to hear. Does this matter?
Yeah.
Like Caleb Williams, when he was at the Combine, because people are questioning his personality. And at the Combine, I thought he tried to make a couple things very clear. He was like, I want to be the number 1 pick because I deserve to be the number 1 pick, which I read as, well, it doesn't have to be Chicago, does it? Because he didn't say I want to go to Chicago, and I'll get to him in a second because it sounds like he's all in on that now. Just in actions. He's not saying it, but just in actions. But he also basically said, I don't want to, he's like, I'm part of the 1% when I go there. I want to be part of the 1% of the 1%. Like, that's what's, I want you to know that about me, that like, I'm not going there just to go there. I'm going there to be Mahomes.
Right.
Like, that's what I'm going to do or try to do. And I think Daniels was kind of reiterating a similar thing. Like, don't get it confused with me. Like, I really, really, really want to be great. And the things that I'm really bullish about most with him, where I really landed on outside of the talent that's obvious with him, is he got better each year, and he got better against harder competition. That's a really good sign.
Mm-hmm.
You go to Arizona State to LSU and get better, considerably better, as opposed to the opposite direction where he starts at LSU and it didn't go that great. So he goes to Arizona State and it's high competition, but it's not that competition. And he explodes. Well, I'd still go, yeah, but he didn't really cut it in the SEC. If you could do it in the SEC, you're doing it at the highest level.
That's right. And I've said this too about him as well. I always believe in momentum with these quarterbacks, like the Joe Burrow level momentum, where Burrow was not the number 1 overall pick going into the season. It started in
Same
October.
Thing, went to the SEC.
Correct.
Right?
But what happened?
And in fairness to him, had a ridiculous level of talent around.
Of course, no. I'm not taking it
away. Those two receivers are outrageous. When you think about it now, it's outrageous.
Might have had 2 Hall of Fame receivers.
Yes,
on his college team.
It's outrageous.
But what I'm getting at though is kind of the same light is where the scuttlebutt started in October, wins the Heisman. All of a sudden, everyone's starting to pay attention more, and he just got better as the season went on. And then all of a sudden, it was like, oh, it's not just Caleb Williams, Drake May now. It's Caleb Williams, Jayden Daniels, Drake May now. Take your pick of the two, but he's right there with them.
Yes.
I believe in that momentum now because I feel like in today's day and age, it's hard to cut through all of that noise and to pay attention to some of these guys. And now everyone's doing that, and he's all of a sudden, everyone's going, oh, wow, he can actually play.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's all kind of coalescing now. There seems to be less debate about it. Number 1 is over.
Yes,
correct. It's
Yeah.
over. Caleb Williams is going to take a visit with the Bears, obviously. There is no other scheduled visit for him. None.
Right.
And remember at the Combine, it was like a mini controversy that he's like, I'm not going to do medicals for everybody. Because he goes, one team's going to take me. Why would I give my medicals to 31 other teams?
Sure.
And I think then he clarified by saying, if I go visit with somebody, I'll do all that for them. But I'm just not going to do it here. I just don't see it. And he's right. Like, what's the point? Like, he knows that the Chargers aren't drafting him. So why would he give them his medical? So he's right. And now it's one team's going to get that. The team is going to pick me, and that's the Bears because it's the only visit I'm going on. And it's like in actions, maybe not exactly in words, but in actions, he's all but saying, don't even bother.
Right.
And I think the Bears are almost like he's saying, don't even bother because he's not taking any other visits because he knows this is what's going to happen. So that feels done in action. Now, Schefter saying out loud, what I'm hearing is this. Only reinforces what I thought I kind of knew about this, that this is the logical landing point if there isn't some kind of character issue that we don't know about.
Right.
Like, unless there's something like that, and clearly there isn't, I think it's a done deal. Caleb Williams 1, Jayden Daniels 2, short of something unusual or unforeseen happening over the next 3 weeks. I think that's what is going to happen here. And all along, I'm like, I don't want to like take a huge position on it because I call the games for the team. So if and I'm not a scout, I'm not going to pretend I know more than Adam Peters. And if they think Drake May's a better option for them, well, I'm going to believe them.
Yeah.
And I don't want to sit there and go, well, you made a mistake. So I'm a little on the fence, but if it's up to me of watching both of them, and I think they're both really good prospects, I don't know how you turn down Jayden Daniels, and it seems to have coalesced that way with all the pundits now that they believe. And when Schefter says it, it's what he's hearing from everybody.
Yeah, that's right.
It's what he's hearing. Yeah.
Can I ask you an interesting, not important question?
Yes.
There's like no numbers that are available. You know that? I went through the roster this morning.
What? How could there be no numbers available? That's impossible.
Bear with me. For his position. 0 is Mariota. 1 is Jahan. 2 is Diami Brown. 3 is McManus. Sorry. 4 is Frankie Louvu. 5 is what he has worn in high school, college, both college teams.
That's Tress.
Tress could probably be paid out of it. I wouldn't be shocked if that was the case, but
he seems like a team guy and be willing to do that. Although Tress Way he won't go to the Hall of Fame because no punters do, but he's had the type of career that would warrant consideration for it.
He's Ring of Fame for sure.
Oh, he's Ring of Fame for sure.
Lock.
Like, you have to be Ray Guy to be like a punter that goes in the Hall of Fame, but he's had the longevity and the stats that would like put him in a discussion about it if punters actually went to the Hall of Fame.
I'd argue the second most popular jersey in the stadium too.
Really?
Because people just leave. So like Chase Young's gone.
Yeah.
All those 99 jerseys don't count now. Tressway is probably the next one available.
When that snap, we short hopped him and he got hit last year, I was literally physically, emotionally upset. I'm like, oh my God, he got hurt.
Right.
And that was very upset. Knowing what he is, it was so upsetting to like see him get hurt.
So he wears 5.
Yeah.
So that's I'll just mark that. Dante Fowler's wearing 6. No one's wearing 7.
No one's wearing 7.
Brian Robinson.
Theismann let Haskins wear 7.
Right.
Because Haskins asked him, and Theismann said okay,
Correct.
even though begrudgingly. Remember, begrudgingly. He didn't really want him to.
Right. Brian Robinson wears 8.
9.
No one's touching. It's Sonny.
Yeah.
Kaz Allen wears 10. Jeremy
well,
Chin.
he's not really on the team right now.
This is funny.
Yeah.
Jeremy Chin and Jake Fromm are listed at 11, so there's a line for number 11.
Okay.
There's no 12. I don't think he's rocking 12, though.
No,
12's an
and
ugly
Driscoll
quarterback.
used to wear 12, so that's a possibility.
Okay, there you go.
What's Driscoll got on then? Did they
No,
give him a number?
he's listed as 16. We didn't
Okay,
get him
all
yet.
right.
13 is Forbes. Zacchaeus is 14. Dax Milne is 15. Driscoll's 16, and D'Angelo Mandel is also listed as 16. So there are 2 16s.
I don't know who the second person is that you named.
He's a DB.
No idea who that is.
DB out of BYU.
Okay.
Terry's 17. He ain't touching that.
Right.
Mitchell Tinsley is 18.
Right.
19 is the corner whose name I can't pronounce. Noah.
Oh, yeah. I know. I got to work on that one too.
20's Quan.
Okay.
There's no numbers. There's number 12.
Okay, so
who's
could he be 7? Sure.
Sure, but
that door already got cracked open because Haskins wore it.
Right.
So Joe can't say no to that.
but I don't think he wants 7. I think he wants 5. He's worn 5 in high school at Arizona State and at LSU.
He did wear 2, didn't he, for a while? Didn't he wear 2?
Did he? I
thought he wore 2 somewhere. So he could ask Diami about that, right? Maybe get him to change that number.
I have
don't
pictures
know.
of him at Arizona State, and it's 5.
5?
Yeah.
So you think he's going to go to Tressway and ask Tressway to change
The
numbers?
franchise is going to nicely ask Tress, hey, do you want to give up 5?
We'll see.
I'm just saying. It's an interesting question. Not important. It's just interesting because there's nothing left. And I was shocked to see that graphic.
This is one of those things, too. Like, this will be, you have to learn about the franchise you're going to. Putting on 7 means something.
Correct.
So, you know, you don't want to walk in the door and just not know that.
Well, of course. But what I'm getting at is I couldn't believe they tweeted that graphic out of all the guys' numbers, knowing the draft was coming up with a very important pick coming up in number 2. And just being like, here's the new guys. Here's all their new numbers.
Well, you know, Diami's on the team for now.
Okay. Still, it's number
Dax
2,
Milne's
though.
on the team for now.
We don't know if he wants number 2, though.
Well, we don't know that. Right. So you think he wants 5?
I'm just
Tell
saying,
Tressway to put on 72 or whatever.
I'm just saying,
available.
Here's what I'm saying. The guy's worn 5 from high school on up. That's kind of superstitious to me. It's not like he rotated between a couple numbers.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just
okay,
just pointing that out.
All right,
I'm a gearhead, so I
keep an eye on it.
Yeah, I think it's just worth paying attention
There's
to.
just no numbers available.
There's literally no number. There's one number. It's 12.
All right.
Who's the last quarterback to wear 12 here?
Yeah.
That's quarterback.
12? Cousins.
Yes.
He wore 12 before he went to 8.
The rookie
correct?
year. Yeah, he wore his rookie year.
Who was 8 at that time?
Rex.
Rex was 8.
Yeah, because he was still on the roster at the time.
Got it. Okay.
So.
Well, all right. Well, we'll see what happens. Mariota at 0 was an interesting choice.
I was hoping Jayden was going to go with 0.
Go with
I
0?
thought that would be badass. I think that would be so cool.
I feel like that works on a defensive player, that 0 number.
It does, but I think it works as quarterback too.
Yeah.
I think
Maybe.
Because
it'd be original.
It reminds me of like a hoops jersey, like
Yeah.
Gilbert, essentially.
Yeah.
So I think that's a badass one. But
Yeah.
I mean.
All right, so I think we're here now. When Schefter's saying it, no one's objecting, and everyone's getting in line for it. I think we're 3 weeks away from what appears to be the top 2 picks are set, and New England becomes the pivot point. What are you going to do?
Right.
Are you taking Drake May? Are you taking J.J. McCarthy, or are you trading out?
Right.
And, you know, let's see what the offers are, because I think if that's Minnesota and the Raiders are probably, well, I think Minnesota. Everyone says the Raiders want Jayden.
Right.
So that's probably Minnesota, and Minnesota seems desperate, and Minnesota seems like the type of team that's going to give 4 first-round picks to move up from 11.
Right.
You know, if I'm New England, I got to tell you, I'll be a little hard-pressed to turn that down, especially if you end up landing Penix anyway.
Of course. No, that's true.
Because the reality is he might be the most accurate of all of them. That's the crazy part of the whole thing.
Right. No, it could be the case.
Yeah,
I mean,
it could be. I loved watching him last year. I'm like, that guy is
You were loving him last year.
loved him. Really accurate on deep balls, like really accurate on that. And
Right.
again, same thing. He has a top 15 receiver that's going into the draft too. That
Right.
stuff matters.
No, of course. Yeah.
Yeah, that stuff really matters. All right, let me take a quick break. Bram, watch the show, ESPN 630, Sports Capital. Throwback Thursday, 2005. At some point this evening during the Capitals-Penguins game, sections 412 through 416 will be singing this even after the puck drops on a face-off when they start playing this. It's become routine at Capitals games
That's right.
now. Tonight we get installment number 94 of Crosby versus Ovechkin as the Capitals play the Penguins. And we chose 2005 because that was the first time that they ever met. Alex Ovechkin and Sidney Crosby were drafted in different years, but they played together for the first time. The NHL was actually... It
was in a lockout.
It was in a lockout, so they actually started their careers on the ice at the same time. Alex Ovechkin was the Rookie of the Year over Sidney Crosby, and they've traded a lot of different accolades through the years. The one that Ovechkin's going to have for all time, hopefully, will be the all-time goal-scoring record, which hopefully will happen in about a year and a half. Hopefully.
If you want to just say this was a preview of things to come, that first matchup, Penguins 4 first-period goals.
Oh.
Final score 5-4. Penguins win. The Capitals scored 4 goals after that, and then the Penguins ended up winning. But
I went to one last year. I went and me and Archer went on our dad-son road trip, and we're going to do that next week for Orioles Red Sox because it's opening day in Fenway. And I'm like, that's a really good excuse to go do that.
Right.
Go see the Orioles for an opening day at Fenway Park.
Mm-hmm.
And last year we did that, and the Caps were down 3-0 after 2.
Yep.
And my son was just beyond upset. He was 10, you know. He's like, this isn't
like, welcome
right.
to sports.
Yeah. He was just, you couldn't cheer him up. He was covering his face. He didn't want to watch it. The Caps scored 3 goals in the third period and tied it. And he was standing up in Pittsburgh's arena screaming, this is my house, okay? Then Malkin scores with like a minute left.
Welcome to sports again, yeah.
But at least, you know, at least he got to see a crazy comeback.
Of course, yeah. I mean, that's what this rivalry is. Like, would you be shocked tonight if it was 7-6? No, because this is what these two teams do. They just open it up against each other.
I've been threatening to go. As you know, I don't like to pay. But I did see a couple seats on one of the secondary markets that weren't terrible for good seats. And so I'm threatening to go. I'm going to go test the waters back at home when I get home and see what they think. And I'm not going to buy 4 tickets. Sorry, Ted. I'm not going to buy 4. I'll buy 2 and take somebody along with me if they're willing and if I get the right price.
I was going to say that's modern technology now. You could head down there without a ticket. And
give me some alerts.
Get one.
Yeah, give me some alerts.
Yeah.
Barry Sverluga did a nice piece today in the Washington Post detailing an enduring rivalry that has occurred here forever. He starts with, and I think this is a good way to do it, and they probably could do this in Pittsburgh too, but his first quote is from Hendrix Lapierre, who was 7, when they first started playing, and he's talking about how he had both of their jerseys because they were his favorite players.
Yeah, no, Ovi, it's been like documented. He had like an Ovi poster on his wall.
Yeah, yeah. So he had that, and then there was, Spencer Carberry said he had hair when they first started playing, which I thought was funny. And then he's got a bunch of other quotes, especially from Tom Wilson, who said this, which I thought was a really nice quote. He said, "It's tough to put into words what they've been able to do across multiple eras, generations, and they just constantly show up and are the best players in the league for as long as I can remember. The consistency for superstars like that, to be able to do what they do and just fill the net every year, makes even a good NHL player look at them and say, wow, these guys are next level."
100%.
Because here's Tom Wilson, who's been a great NHL player for a very long time, and he's looking at them going, I don't know how they do that.
No, he's absolutely right. I think my favorite part about this rivalry has actually been Penguins and Caps fans and kind of this phase where they're not in their primes anymore, where both Caps and Penguins fans are like, that was really cool, what we all were kind of like toting the flag for our player there, knowing what's happening right now of like, we're never going to get this again. Like, we're never going to get
not.
The Hall of Fame level players for as good as they were. And, you know, as I always point out, when they met in the playoffs, the winner won the Stanley Cup every time.
Yeah, I guess rivalries that matter. Like right now, we have a few massive superstars. Matthews, McKinnon, McDavid.
Yep.
They don't really...
No, I mean, Matthews is versus Toronto media. I mean, that's because that's who the Maple Leafs are. Yeah. But no, there aren't. I mean, off of last night, you could say the Devils and the Rangers are kind of back. I don't know if you saw what happened in that game. There was a line brawl to start the game, so that might be back.
I saw an interview with PK Subban who said, I like this, and we need more of it. And I'm like, to start the game? Okay.
I think he was talking about...
We had that a couple of years ago after the Caps.
With the Rangers.
Yeah, with the Rangers.
But I think
that was a different story. Yeah.
I think what he's getting at is he likes the venom being back in hockey a little bit. Yeah. But, no, you're right. The superstars don't really have these rivalries with other teams. I would say you're getting some regional rivalries, though. Like, Vegas is hated by all the West Coast teams. Like, San Jose, the Kings, they hate Vegas. I don't know how much Vegas hates them. But in terms of, like, these kind of old-schooly rivalries, they don't really exist as much anymore.
I think, it did help that, this was two teams that had known each other and didn't like each other for a long time.
Had history.
And had gone through a lot of playoff series in previous incarnations where Lemieux and Yager were the ones killing us, for years and breaking our hearts every year. So once this rolled around again, it was already kind of a ready-made rivalry, which was really good. That's the problem with Matthews. He doesn't have his Crosby or Ovechkin in a place where he'd play them every year. Really needs Boston's got a really good team, but they don't have a massive star like that. If they did, I think that would probably coalesce a little differently.
It's funny you mentioned Boston. I think Boston-Montreal for years and years was a great rivalry because they both always were loading up with superstars. But what has happened now is Montreal doesn't have any stars.
Yeah, they don't.
So they don't. You have to hold up on both sides of the bargain, so to speak. And this team and the Penguins constantly have, not only is it Ovechkin and Crosby, their surrounding cast are always names you've heard. They always sign good guys. Like the Caps, brought in Wilson, drafted Wilson, got TJ Oshie, had Backstrom alongside, whereas Crosby had Malkin, by his side. Then you had Gensel for years and years, but Brooks Orpik was a part of that rivalry, then crossed over. There's been huge names on both teams there. Those are both the centerpieces, though, that help the engine kind of move along.
Barry writes this about it. How unique is this rivalry? According to research provided by the NHL, plenty of players who spent their entire careers with one franchise faced an opponent who also played for only one organization more than 94 times. Alex Del Vecchio of the Red Wings and George Armstrong of the Maple Leafs squared off 257 times between 1950 and 1971, and neither
teams.
Played for another team. And he points out they played each other 14 times a season because there were only 6 teams. The only modern day exceptions who have Ovechkin and Crosby beat: San Jose's Mark-Edouard Vlasic, who faced Anze Kopitar of the Kings 100 times, and tangled with Kopitar's former LA teammate Dustin Brown 98 times. Okay. That's all they have, because in modern sports, one, they don't play each other as much as they used to like that.
Their divisions have changed,
Yeah, but hockey players are more loyal than others. They do tend to stick with their teams for longer, too. It's not unlike other sports, like in basketball and in football, where big-time stars move around very quickly, more to a detriment, I think, to the sport a little bit.
That they would have him beat if Crosby didn't have the concussion problems, which I think is actually just a layer to the rivalry, which is crazy, that he had problems for over a year with concussions.
That's right.
And so that was a whole year or two worth of injuries that he didn't play the Capitals, actually, because he was out for a long time. And so he would have that. I think they would have the record if it wasn't for injuries. And even Ovechkin has been banged up.
Well, they had another year where it was the lockout, right?
Right.
So there's another year of that. Yeah. And I'm assuming they're both playing. Well, I know Ovechkin is. I'm assuming Crosby's playing. He's actually 2 years younger. He's only 36, albeit with a lot more injuries than Ovechkin's had. But so they'll cross this next year. They'll have over 100 meetings with one another. They will not be meeting in the playoffs again this year.
No, because it's going to be one or the other. Is what's going to happen. It's not going to be both.
And Barry ended his piece with this. He goes, "The two have contributed for 5 Hart trophies, 4 Stanley Cups, 1,437 goals, 1,693 assists, and just about as many highlight shows that their statistical legacy in a league to which they have each laid waste. It's 2024, and they're still leading men on teams they have carried for 2 decades, may be more impressive." It is true. That they are this relevant at this age still, is pretty amazing.
No, the fact that you have the next generation in their prime already, and they're still carrying their teams. Their modern comps are, as you said, Connor McDavid is the modern Crosby comp, and Austin Matthews is the modern Ovechkin comp. Modern. And I say that word modern because Matthews doesn't hit anyone nearly as much as Ovechkin hit when he was in his prime, essentially. But those are the two ones, and they can't get out of those guys' shadows because they're still playing really, really well. So, and Matthews plays for the Dallas Cowboys of the NHL, the most popular team in the NHL, and he is still secondary to those guys.
This is a little bit, though. This conversation is a little bit like what Barkley was complaining about with LeBron and the Warriors, where he's like, those teams aren't even in the playoffs, right?
But, too bad. They're brands.
We'll do this again next hour, but real quickly, what do you got tonight? What do you think? Oh, no. That's a long pause. I mean, that's a really... One game turned you,
I have to be worried.
It just skidded off so bad.
They should have beat Buffalo. I'm worried.
They've got a lot of bad games this year.
I'm going to go back to not picking, because when I pick, they lose. But this should be close. But these games are also chaos on top of chaos. As I said to you, The one game that, remember we were flying to Vegas and it was a playoff game and it was like 7-6 by the time we landed. Yeah. I mean, it could be that. It could also be 2-1 and it's a really tight defensively game. I don't know which version we're going to get. The good part is Charlie Lindgren back in net. It gives you a chance to win every single night.
This game is a huge deal for them.
Correct. Yeah.
They're 3 points back of Washington.
Yep.
And 3 back of Detroit, which is still, the other potential wild card. Mm-hmm. They win tonight, they're a point back of, because correct. Neither Detroit or Philadelphia are playing, so they're a point back of it too, right. Actually, if they win tonight. And if they lose, it's going to be devastating for them. If they lose in regulation, it's going to be devastating for them tonight.
I can nerd out on you for a second here. If the Penguins win in regulation against the Caps, their playoff chances go up to 23.2%. So 1 in 5 shot, basically. If they lose, it goes down to 5%. They're essentially going to be dead in the water.
That's right.
If the Capitals
Ben Raby's very proud of you for reading that.
If the Capitals win tonight, their chances go up to 68.7%
in regulation.
In regulation,
right? If
they lose to the Penguins in regulation, drops down to 39%.
Yeah, it's a big. Well, now you're selling me to go because this is kind of a playoff game.
And same thing here. If they beat the Penguins in overtime, 64%. So only a 5% difference. So if they win, no matter what, they're in good shape. If they lose to the Pens in overtime, it goes down to 50-50, essentially. So
I think the Archman might be in for a surprise tonight. I might be pulling tickets now. Now I kind of want to see it because this if they do, this is a playoff game.
Correct. Because if it's actually more for the Caps. If they lose here, they're on track to not make the playoffs. If they beat the Penguins, though, the Penguins are dead. Like, they're going to end the Penguins season for all intents and purposes.
That's fun.
So, yeah, correct. Exactly. So,
and then, of course, because after you say all that, it's just going to go to a shootout.
Right.
And one team will get one more point than the other.
We'll go to the 5th round.
That's right. All right, let's take a quick break. Bram wants to show ESPN 630 Sports Capital. I feel like I should be doing a different show with this song. I don't know what that show is, but probably a different show. My Humps. Who is this? Is this Fergie?
Black Eyed Peas.
Oh, this is Black Eyed Peas.
Every time Black Eyed Peas are on the chart, I have to play them because they're such a time capsule.
They are.
They don't make any sense.
They don't.
They didn't age well, but the beats are good, but the lyrics make no sense, and that's every song they have.
As a producer, Will.i.am's amazing.
Yes. Well, duh.
He is.
The Fugees. Of course he was.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah, of course he is.
This came out in 2005, which we're celebrating for Throwback Thursday because that was the first time that Sidney Crosby and Alex Ovechkin faced off against one another on the ice. Tonight is series history meeting number 94 with Crosby and Ovechkin, and it's an enormous one for the Caps and the Penguins for both of their playoff hopes this year. And it is all but certain, without collapses of every team around them, that they both won't make it.
Going to guess Alex Ovechkin was partying in 2005 to My Humps somewhere in the city.
My Humps. I got to work on my Russian for My Humps.
It was not good. Yeah, it wasn't good.
We got to get. I saw a clip of
Das Humps.
Yeah, Frank Caliendo doing on command singing Billy Joel's Piano Man, and then he's being asked to do Adam Sandler or like John Madden, whatever. The whole shouting it out. If we could get him to do Ovechkin for that, it'd be pretty good. Let's see. The Orioles won again yesterday.
Had to wait a while.
Had to wait a while.
6 o'clock.
Yeah, 6 o'clock.
Good God.
Thanks for telling everybody about that.
Orioles did do the right thing again, by the way. If you left the ballpark, you were allowed to come back in.
There were 8 people there by the end of this. The game was supposed to start at 1. I saw the clip of the walk-off, and there's like one guy behind the dugout who's cheering.
Well, they did say this. The incentive for that, by the way, was when they let everyone back into the ballpark, it was open seating.
Oh, okay.
So if you had an upper level seat, you got to go sit behind the dugout if you got down there. So
fine. They won again. Yep. So they took 2 of 3. Second straight series, they've taken 2 of 3. They weren't easy against the Royals, but they came back and they won. They're off today. But the bigger story for them is what's happening a level below. Here's from here's ESPN's recap.
Best AAA team ever.
Yeah. Heston Kjerstad went 5 for 7 with 2 home runs and 10 RBI to lead the Norfolk Tides to a 26-11 rout of the Charlotte Knights in the AAA International League on Wednesday. Kyle Stowers had 3 home runs, 4 hits, and 7 RBI. The number 1 overall prospect, Jackson Holliday, had 4 hits against the White Sox farm team. Norfolk set records for runs, hits, 29, and home runs, 8. Kjerstad is batting .583, 14 for 24, 4 home runs, 18 RBIs in 5 games. While Stowers is hitting .400, 5 homers, 14 RBI, And Holiday, the son of Matt Holiday, is hitting 400, 2 homers, 8 RBI. They are 4-1. No kidding.
Yep.
So, obviously this is crazy, right? This is crazy. And I did see a lot of tweets reacting to this going, hey, Elias.
Right.
Unleash the Kraken. Bring them up.
All of them?
I don't know, man. Like,
how do you,
I don't know.
It's not like it's not working up here. Like, that's the thing. If they were losing, if they lost to the Royals, maybe.
I get it, but I will also hear out the public pressure campaign of, this is ridiculous. This is a joke.
Right.
Like, this guy's hitting 583 in AAA. Clearly, he doesn't belong there.
Right, yeah.
Make room for him, and even if that means there are a couple of names that we know that are not going to be playing very much because of this,
Right.
And unleash the Kraken.
I think this was the problem in the offseason with them. It wasn't trading a couple of top guys, not even top guys, a couple of guys for Corbin Burns. I actually thought they need to move one of the big names. Not the big names, but like just everyday starters. Like, unfortunately, Mountcastle or Mullins, one of those types of guys, just because
Mullins is the name that keeps popping up now. People are like, they're better than him.
Well,
and he's not bad.
He's not bad at all. Well,
right.
It's not only that, because they're not going to pay him either. Like, that's the other thing. Like, there's no reason to pay him when the guy behind him is better.
No, they can't pay. Unfortunately, they can't pay him.
Yep.
Like, they got too many other people they got to pay.
Right.
So, like, the public pressure is going to just keep mounting on them to bring some of these guys up and make the lineup the most ridiculous thing you've ever seen, because that's what's happening right now. And feels like Gremlins a little bit. You toss some water on it, they're going to come out and they're going to go crazy on you. And eventually, like, this can't go on for too much longer before people go, come on. Like this is absurd.
I think what happens here is this happens in baseball season. The first month of the season, some GMs do assess their team and go, all right, we need to add here or take away here. I'm going to guess the Orioles are going to be the first team some of these teams are calling, going, I hear you've got some movable parts.
You've got too many good players.
What do you want?
You have too many good players.
Right. And funny enough, the Orioles are going to be like, well, we don't want more prospects. So you tell us what starter, reliever you can give us.
Correct. I'll take more pitching.
Yeah.
They need more pitching. I think they're a candidate, obviously, when the trade deadline rolls around with new ownership and hopefully a new thought on spending. That they'll go and acquire some people,
right?
And that may involve some of these type of names. But it's just part of me that feels like, why even wait that long?
Right? Yeah.
What are we waiting for?
Yeah.
And when you got 3 guys hitting 400 or better and one hitting almost 600, I mean, I think he's ready.
Right. Right.
So
I'm going to go with, though, let's wait till they're not playing the White Sox farm team, because the White Sox are one of the worst teams, if not the worst team in baseball. So
fine.
I'm just saying.
These are AAA players.
Right.
Like, this isn't like they're not taking on the Savannah Bananas. Like, that's not what's happening right now. So, yeah, okay, I don't know farm systems well enough to know whether they're like high-level prospects or not. Either way, they're not terrible.
Right. No,
these are professional baseball players, and it's a joke. Like, it's a joke what they're doing. So the public pressure is going to ramp up on them to do something about this and just make their lineup as good as possible. And I'm all for unleash the Kraken. You might as well.
You need to call your friend Jackson, because I think the tides are on his airwaves.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, I'm like 99% sure.
So every time you say his name, there's so many things I want to immediately say.
No, you can't say him on the air, though. But
can't say.
He's got a tide hooked
what
up.
He says off the air to everybody when you first speak to him. Can't say it.
Can't say it. No, you can't. But
okay.
So maybe Jackson's the expert on the tides. Maybe we start calling him up, for Orioles segments.
He's probably like, this is incredible.
He's in heaven.
Yes, they're doing an hour on this every day. Like, you've never seen anything like this. It's like they're going to break the record for like runs scored in minor league baseball.
Right. Exactly.
Let's see. Nationals won.
Yep.
Good for them.
Thumbs up.
Thumbs up, guys. Good job.
They're playing in about 10 minutes.
Oh. They are?
4:05 first pitch,
yeah.
Yeah, because the rubber matchup against the Pirates, who are then going to their home opener tomorrow, that the Orioles are playing.
It's the Orioles.
Yeah, so back to back.
That's their home opener?
Yep.
So the Orioles are the home opener for the Pirates and for the Red Sox?
Yeah, this happens in the first 2 weeks. Yeah, like it's
the same team gets everybody's opening day?
No, but it's the first 2 weeks you're rotating through. So if you hit the road, there's a chance this happens. Yeah, for sure.
That's interesting, though.
Yeah, it's not unusual, though, is what I'm telling you.
Is that interesting or important? I'm not sure.
I think tomorrow. So I said this on. I filled in for Tony this morning. I said this on his show. That's a hell of a Friday. Opening day, 4 o'clock first pitch. No one in Pittsburgh's getting any work done tomorrow.
No,
Everyone's
that's fun.
going to the game.
Like, that's going to be fun.
I think baseball, I'm advocating for this. Opening day starts on Fridays.
Fridays? Yeah.
I think that's
yeah.
You get your
It's like a national day off.
Correct. I think we need to make opening day a Friday.
All right.
So, yeah.
Let's see. Wizards lost to the Lakers, but we're close.
125, 120. Plus 13.
How about
Good job,
that?
Wiz. Good job.
Did you take that under? You were talking about
did.
that one.
I
Yeah.
I was pretty mad in the third. I was pretty mad.
Yeah, but, listen, they're hanging in there. I now want them to win more, obviously, because I don't want the number one pick anymore.
You know, the Wizards' Twitter now is like trade Kuzma because they are playing so well without him. They're trying to do that mess.
What do you mean playing so well?
Well, he's
Define
been out.
playing so well.
He's been out the past 2 games, and the rotation's been trimmed down.
Okay.
I'm just telling you what Twitter's saying.
You guys are going farther without him?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's what people are convincing themselves of.
Convincing them. There's nothing to convince yourself of at all, Kyle Kuzma or no Kyle Kuzma. There is no hope for this particular group of people for a while.
We do have the 3rd year in a row. Anthony Gill looks like a rotational player, but he doesn't play until the season's already out of hand. So that's always fun, too.
These people need to figure out something else to argue about.
Well,
this is a pointless discussion.
There are people that are engaged. That's what I'm just saying.
I'll give them that. Like, yeah, it's amazing you are, because I'm not. I'm just reading you a score. That's all I saw. And I checked in because there's LeBron running up and down our court.
Of course.
I'll go see that.
Yeah.
All right, I'll be right back. Bram, what's the show? ESPN 630, Sports Capital. 2005 was a weird year.
Classic. I don't know what you're talking about.
There's Ludacris from 2005 to commemorate what was the year of the first ever meeting of Alex Ovechkin and Sidney Crosby as a Capital and Penguins player. Tonight is meeting number 94, Caps and Penguins down at Cap One tonight, and it's basically a playoff game for both of these teams. The Capitals are 3 points up on Pittsburgh, trying to hang in there for either third place in the Metro that would automatically get them in, or knock off Detroit, who's the only viable wild card team that they could catch to be what would be then be the 8th seed. Their loss to Buffalo's got everybody a little bit shook after the other day because they were on the right kind of heater, and then they laid a dud against a bad team that isn't going to make the playoffs, turn around and play an arch rival tonight. Right. And for Pittsburgh, they're 3 points behind Washington, so this is kind of it.
Yes, correct.
Exactly. It for them. Yep. All right, here's what's going on the news from the sports world. We have our second Super League that has popped up as a possibility. It would alter college football as you know it. Mm-hmm. And there are major heavy hitters involved in all of this, including people from the NFL and some major chancellors from schools around the country. And here's what would end up happening. The current College Sports Tomorrow, what they're calling it, outline, would create a system that would have the top 70 programs, all members of the 5 former major conferences, plus Notre Dame and new ACC member SMU, as permanent members and encompass in all 130-plus FBS universities. The perpetual members would be in 7 10-team divisions, joined by an 8th division of teams that would be promoted from the second tier.
Right.
The 50-plus second division teams would have the opportunity to compete their way into the upper division, creating a promotion system similar to the structure in European football leagues. The 70 permanent teams would never be in danger of moving down, while the second division would have the incentive of promotion and relegation. So 70 teams can't be relegated.
Right.
10 teams are in this one spot that allows them to compete with them. The other 50 are trying to get into that 10 group of 10.
Right.
This would be, boy, I'd buy into this more if they said everybody was possible.
Or at least half.
Because, all right, Vanderbilt.
Yep, right. Exact. Perfect example.
Vanderbilt, who is perpetually, with every once in a while, they get James Franklin to show up, and they're good for a couple of years, but not good enough to really compete.
Right.
They're good enough. Like, they win 7 games, and everyone's like, oh, wow. Well, most years, they're 2-11.
Right.
But they can't ever be relegated from this.
See, I don't.
Because they're a permanent member of this.
Right. Like, I think there should be a incentive clause of, okay, let's say you win a national championship. You're good for 20 years. Mm-hmm. Like that's why winning a national title now is the incentive is through the roof now. Because if you get it, you're stuck for 20 years there, right? But 10 teams, It's like watching, like the upper class go, look at those guys fighting it out down there. And it's like,
Fighting it out down there.
No, you should be in that fray too. So I don't like that part about it. I'd say.
And how long, if you get relegated, for how long? Just a year?
Right. See, that's my other problem here is, can you ever get into the permanent spot? Because I think
no. What they just said was 7 divisions of 10 teams that can't ever be relegated.
See, that's BS. Like, I'm sorry.
There's an 8th division. That's the one you're trying to get into.
Right.
The others.
Yes, yeah, I'm not.
You can be part of the others. If you get into the others, you'll get into their playoff, is what they're saying.
No, I don't like that part of it.
Here's what it is. The playoffs would not require a selection committee, as the 8 division winners and 8 wild cards from the top tier would go to the postseason. The wild card spots would be determined by record and tiebreakers, much like the NFL. Okay. Now, I prefer this. Now, that said, unlike the NFL, where there's only 32 teams.
Right.
Well, who you play matters.
No, of course. Yeah, right. Exactly.
Who you play matters.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So, that's still gonna be complicated to figure out, like, who's more deserving than somebody else. But, we're in this is. I actually agree that, like, the current model is broken. It's
correct.
I agree with that. Unlike what they were trying to do with soccer, which was usurp all the sport into one place, and I actually was worried about that.
Right.
That's kind of like, this is logical, actually, to me, that they have to do something like this.
I think actually the best part about this is look at what college football does to college sports overall. What they do trickles down to all the other sports now. Like, look at how the transfer portal works now with NIL and all that stuff. We saw it happen now with basketball. We, of course, saw it with women's basketball now, too. Like, you're seeing major names for women's programs enter the transfer portal, and it's getting just as much run as some of the football players are. I think what this does, though, is it sets a precedent back to what you and I have always said. Why does football affect every other sport at every school now? Like, this would make it so then all of the softball teams can make their Super League. Yes. All of the basketball teams.
Correct.
Like, Duke football doesn't deserve to be in those 70 teams for football.
They will be.
But for basketball, they should be a permanent team if we're talking about that, right? Yes. So I feel like what it does, though, is it sets the precedent of maybe we start doing this by sport. That maybe we start saying, hey, you're really good at basketball. You can be in this part of the region for that. But football, we don't need you on that side of things.
That's right. So
that's what I would hope would happen, but I know it's not going to.
The interesting part of this, too, is, 10-team divisions. Well, there'll be an SEC good and an SEC kind of good.
Right. Yes, exactly.
We'll get a little bit of that.
Right.
Who's in what division of those would be interesting. Like, I would assume that Alabama and Auburn want to be together in whatever division that they're in.
Right.
But are they going, you know what, we don't need Texas in this half of this, send them over there. So there'd be a lot of jockeying like that.
It's some pettiness that comes out with that.
Tons of pettiness, which I don't mind. I don't mind the pettiness.
It's going to get a lot of Paul.
Let's see. Leagues have been hesitant and canceled meetings as to not upset their current broadcast partners, including ESPN and Fox, according to one executive briefed on the commissioner's thoughts. Why you're not upsetting them? If you do this, ESPN and Fox is like how much?
Right. They're also going,
what do you think, we're not going to air this?
And they're going to go, you're going to just supplement us the games to replace whatever the division games are now.
That's
or
right.
The conference games, I mean. Yeah.
Chief among the obstacles this new venture faces are the billions of dollars in TV deals that all the top conferences have locked in with the major networks, ESPN, ABC, Fox, NBC, CBS. The FBS conferences recently signed off on a 6-year, $7.8 billion extension with ESPN for exclusive rights to the expanded college football playoff. Well, you know what?
Right.
You could just... Well,
they could still get the playoff, though. That's what...
See, the problem is this is through the NCAA.
Oh, oops.
So, right. So if they just... But these teams would then basically be separating themselves from the NCAA and therefore the college football playoff and therefore starting their own thing. And ESPN would have paid... ESPN would have paid for a $7.8 billion thing that is going to have San Jose State take on Indiana State. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar will be playing quarterback for somebody.
Kareem Abdul-Jabbar.
So they got to work through that one. But, I think there's got to be something in the paperwork that if the SEC or, as you know it, Big Ten, et cetera, aren't involved in the college football playoff for some reason, it voids it.
Yeah, right.
It voids it. Yeah. And then at that point, they can just go negotiate with Super League. And I'm sure that's what they want, they need to do. Well, okay, so I got a lot of questions about this.
Okay.
All right. Number one, and I've brought this up in the past, and I'll bring it up again. Part of this is, and it's spelled out here, they just can't go on like this.
Correct.
They're going to pay players.
Correct. Yep.
There will be contracts.
Yep.
I'm pretty convinced of that because they got to stop this portal nonsense where everybody just comes and goes. So people are going to get player contracts. Yep. Why would you have anything called eligibility?
Right. No, I agree with you. I think you
Why?
I think you need to take it one step further. Give me the high school draft.
A high school draft?
Yep.
Oh, you want to draft players?
If there's 80 teams and it's a league, let's do it all the way. High school draft, I want a salary cap. I want you to be able to trade players. Let's just say if coaches get fired, maybe that lets a certain amount of contracts go, that those players then are free to sign with who they want, or if a coach gets poached somewhere. Mm-hmm. Like, we have some outs here. But if we're going to do this, go full NFL junior here. I want all of it.
Well, that's what this is.
Right, but I'm saying, though, I want the salary cap. I want the high school draft. I want coverage of that. I want the 5-star recruits. Like, do you take the sure hands that are, that you can get, or are you taking the best quarterback there from Texas or wherever? Like,
do you realize we're going to have the Drake May, Jayden Daniels discussion over high school kids out of Kansas and Missouri to go to play for Loxley? You realize we're going to have that for us.
This is for Paul. This is for that audience. We're not talking about that here. We don't have
Maryland will be one of those 70.
Right, but we're still not going to talk about it. I know
this will come down to money.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Question 2, and I think it's a big one.
Yeah.
This isn't college athletics anymore.
Correct. Yeah. No.
Why would you associate them with colleges?
Well, now colleges are just businesses. So, they always have been businesses, but now the quiet part is now loud. So this just becomes you're playing for a brand.
You're playing for a brand, and it will come down to how much money you got.
That's right. Yeah, exactly.
So the teams with the most money. So are you going to put a salary cap on this?
So that's how you let everyone be competitive with each other.
Well, there's no way they would be otherwise.
Right.
Because Michigan, Alabama, others, Texas, probably Florida, some of the others, they could always outspend you.
That's right.
And if it's all on we don't have to try to figure out how to do this through some stupid NIL deal.
Right.
We could just pay you out of whatever we got. Guess whose budget is way higher than somebody else's, and they can choose to spend that kind of money.
Yes, correct, exactly. But now we have an even playing field if you implement a cap.
This isn't even college sports anymore, though. It's not even rooted in it.
Sure, but
you're just putting on helmets and jerseys that I'm accustomed to seeing playing in stadiums that I love because they're iconic, assuming that you keep them, right? And saying this is college football now, but they're not students.
Right.
They're far from it.
Correct.
Right. They're
aren't
paid
now,
employees. I think most of them are.
Loxley said on this show he thought about quitting because every player came into his office asking about money.
Because they wanted money. Yes, because they wanted money.
So it's not.
They still had to be students. If you put them under player contracts, they're not students anymore.
Okay.
So they're just employees of the university. They're not even right.
I don't know what's your point here.
My point is this is not even remotely close to the foundation of what this is. Not even this is so far away from that it's not that I'm not against it, and I actually think it's the logical conclusion to all of this is that this is what's going to happen with football and probably basketball, and then we'll see with everything else. Honestly,
what is happening here is all they're doing is we're heading this way anyways. Let's just ramp it up to 100 miles an hour.
Yeah.
Let's just get it over with, rip the Band-Aid off of all of this.
I'm actually surprised that they've gone to, and they probably looked at it this way, if we don't do 70, then we're going to get too many schools that are going, well, I bet we're not in that top 30 that you're thinking of. Like if they do a table of 30, and they're like, SEC, this is what I thought, SEC Big Ten could do Super League and cut everybody else out.
That's right.
And that's it. Sorry, guys, that's the way it is. And I guess they probably felt like if we don't include these other Power 5 schools, there will just be too much. So this is actually still, in my opinion, too big. It's too big.
It depends.
There still will be, of the 70, 35 of them won't really be competing for any kind of championships on any regular basis at all, period. Vanderbilt.
Sure, but at least they're involved.
They're involved, so they get a piece of the pie.
Right.
So Vanderbilt's going to be the Oakland A's of Super League. They're just not going to spend a lot of money because why would they?
Right. Well,
why would they?
They're the Pirates.
Correct.
They pocket the money.
That's the part that's gonna happen. Some of these schools are gonna go, we can't ever compete with this. But we're in this, and we're gonna share in this TV deal that's gonna be massive. So guess what? We're not gonna spend a bunch of money on all these players, and our teams won't be very good. But whatever.
Then what's the league called? What do they loosely call it?
College Sports Tomorrow.
So College Sports Tomorrow, they could actually get ahead of this and go, you have, let's just throw a number. You have a $200 million salary cap. If you don't use it, you don't get to keep the money.
You have to spend.
You have to spend it. You don't get to pocket the extra money from the salary cap. You are not compensated for how frugal you are.
So you get what? You'll get like in any other these other leagues, you get a piece of a piece of whatever the TV deal is.
Right.
You'll have your own ticket sales.
Yep.
That will matter on how you perform.
Correct.
Merchandise sales are all yours, that stuff.
Right.
And then what? Incentives if your school goes farther.
Of course. Yeah, absolutely. And if you spend up to the cap and your team sucks, you're not like penalized for it. You are actually said, okay, you did try to spend. It just didn't work out for you this year. Like you are incentivized to spend somehow. I don't know.
Are we going to have a luxury tax for like Alabama that wants to go over the top?
No, because they will go over the top. And then we just get into the same problem as before where it's Alabama, Michigan, Notre Dame, all those schools have more money than everyone else.
So we're going to have dead cap money too?
Yeah. No, well,
dead cap?
How do we do dead cap? How do we do that?
If there's a salary cap, there has to be a punishment for giving somebody some money and then just walking away from it. Unless you want to just go in this league, that doesn't matter. If you're going to eat it and eat the money, that's just you. Eat the money. That's you.
I think you have to be able to. You have to eat the money because you can't let it affect you, especially with these guys only being eligible for 4 years.
Well, that's what I said. Why would there be eligibility if they're employees? If they're not students, what's the point of eligibility? You don't need it. So, I think this would be heading down the road of guys who are 28 playing.
Maybe.
Because they don't have a future in the NFL. They probably, could probably make more money just doing this.
Right.
That's the other problem I think that you run into. All of a sudden, you've got older people playing as Alabama Crimson Tide players because they can.
They need to put an age cap on it then.
I think so.
Because we're also isn't there like the Miami player that's like 30? Like
there's a couple of exceptions that are made for like people that go into military service or have some kind of hardship or stuff like that. But that's rare.
Right, but he's got like 3 extra years.
Typically, you have 4 to 5 years of eligibility, and because of COVID, they gave everybody an extra year.
Right.
But that was a one-off situation. That's it. So most players by 24 have aged out of the whole thing.
Right.
Well, if you're just paying everybody and they're not really students, then what's the point of having eligibility? So you'd have to put, an age or year cap on it?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
A year cap.
Because there's constant talent coming in. It's not like the draft stops. So
no, but I wouldn't mind having a bunch of 27-year-olds on my team beating up on those 18-year-olds who have played for 6 years. Like that's a way around it. Honestly,
sure.
That's a way around this. Well, we can't afford to get the really expensive players to come in here, but we got a bunch of guys who've played college football for 6 years. Good luck to those high-priced freshmen being chased by this linebacker I've coached for 6 years.
The older your players are, they make exponentially more money. So if you have a 25-year-old, he costs you 4 times.
There's a minimum now.
Uh-huh.
There's a minimum, veteran minimum. If you go past 4 years, it doubles their salary. They got to get a minimum salary.
Quadruples their salary. Some crazy number. So
minimum. So you can't, because if I'm Vanderbilt, that's what I would do. I'd go, you know what? Like, we're not vying to get the quarterback Alabama's going to pay $1 bazillion to get.
Right.
But what we can do is get a bunch of guys in here, pay them a minimal amount, and when they're 25, that other team's not going to like playing us.
Right. But they can only afford.
We have bigger, more physical people who know the game better. Good luck playing us.
They can only afford 2 or 3 of them, though, because they are exponentially more expensive.
This is complicated. It also is not college sports anymore.
Right.
This is a bunch of paid players putting on uniforms.
But college sports isn't college sports anymore.
That's true.
People leave after a year now.
And that's why this is not preposterous.
Not only
it is what it is.
Not only that, people don't leave after a year. They jump into the transfer portal when times get tough in October. That's the craziest part about it.
All you woke culture warriors that wanted the players to get played, this is what you got.
Okay.
This is what you got. This is what it is. Your sport's gone. Now you got Super League. That's it. That's what you get. You guys did it. You did it.
driving out Saban. You're ruining the game.
You drove out Saban. You drove out Jay Wright. Drove out Kay. No, I didn't. I left on my own.
No, you didn't.
Yes, I did. I do anything I want.
Absolutely didn't.
Yeah. He didn't like what was going on
Of
either.
course, no, that's the whole point.
I mean, and Super League basketball's got to be coming, too. I mean, come on.
That's what I was saying.
Has to be. The other ones, like, I'm sorry, there's just not a humongous audience for softball.
No,
There's an
but-
audience,
but
but there
what,
isn't a
What I
huge
am
one.
getting at here, though, is I think this sets the precedent. Every time, basically, football has shaped the entire college landscape now.
Yeah.
Like I was saying earlier, the women's college basketball players, when they enter the transfer portal now, you hear about it.
Yeah.
Like it's at least on the crawl on the bottom of when these top players enter the transfer portal.
Yeah.
This is going to happen across all sports now,
Yeah.
which I think actually works. That's what I'm getting at here is, like, Duke football shouldn't be in the football league, but Duke basketball should be. And I think this is just how we need to operate now.
But to do this and get everybody on board, they're going to have to let Duke
dumb.
football
It's
into
so
the
dumb.
football league.
It's so dumb.
Well, they're going to have to. That's why they put the number at 80. 80 schools, because they went, if we try to limit
Forest
anybody,
shouldn't be in the
of
division,
course not.
guys.
But like if they don't put everybody into it, then they're going to get the backlash from these schools that are going to get in the way of it happening at all. So they have to do it. So maybe the grand plan is we do it with 80 for a while, and at some point we change our mind,
Lop half the league off.
lop half of it off. Super League and kind of Super League.
I still think they
How they shape those divisions will be really interesting.
Yeah,
Because,
right.
like, watch. They're going to, see if they, the way it's set up is if you win this division, you're in. So they can't put all the good teams in 4 divisions because then only a few of them would get into the playoff every year. So they can't do that. They have to spread it out.
You know what it's screeching towards, though, is that number. I'm sure there's a way for them to do a month-long tournament or something crazy like like basketball. Like, I think that's what they're trying to do. We've known they've always wanted to do that, but it's just not possible with football. But if you took 6 weeks and everyone's playing in a tournament, it'd be nuts.
For years, when they pushed back on the whole, like, the regular season will get nullified if we expand the playoff, I was like, are you stupid? Do you realize
That's right.
like how much people want the playoffs way more than that? Like,
right, exactly.
and plus, like, did you get the memo that people would stop watching football at any point in time because all they do is watch more of it?
That's right.
Go ask the NFL, who has games on every day of the week now.
The Thursday games
They don't
consistently
care.
suck, and we all watch.
They're
every
doing a
single
game
one.
on Christmas Day on a Wednesday this year. They don't care.
They do Black Friday now.
They don't care, right? They realize they'll complain about some of it. They'll still watch it.
Still watch it.
They still watch it. I don't like this game. I'm watching every play of it, though.
I'm going to tweet about
Even
it.
Al's complaining about it, but he's there every week.
That's right.
I don't see him quitting.
Of course.
Yeah, this is logical conclusion. It seems a little, unwieldy at this point, the way they're doing it. I think they're thinking about it going, we don't want lawsuits because we don't want people getting left out, so we have to put everybody in.
Right.
And then, all the smaller schools that never really had a say in this anyway have no stake in it. And then I guess they'll just have to figure out how it goes. But this is not college sports. I mean, it's just, I guess that's over.
Right.
These are going to be a bunch of paid guys wearing Michigan uniforms.
Yes, correct.
They're not students
That's
at
what
all.
they are now, though.
They're not even students.
That's what they are now, though.
They're literally not students.
Correct. Yeah.
They just have a lot of like hot 18-year-olds walking around in the community they live in. That's it.
Well,
That's it.
welcome to college sports now.
Yes.
So,
Well, congratulations, guys. You figured it out. Good job.
my whole thing though is they need to do more to get people to pay attention, especially in the casual markets. They need to make more teams. Being able to be relegated. They need to expand that number. Like,
If they're only relegating 1 or 2 every year out of the
dumb. It doesn't
10
even
that
matter.
aren't really part of the big
there's no
part.
pressure, is what
There's
I'm
no
getting
pressure.
at. What I think should happen though is, like, let's say you make it to the college football playoff. Let's say it's what's the expansion now? 12 teams? What's it going to be? Eventually 12 teams?
I think it's
10.
I don't remember.
I forget what they expanded. Let's just call it 10 teams. If you make the college football playoff, you're good for like 5 years.
If you make it.
If you make it,
To
right?
be relegated.
To be relegated. You're good. You are nullified for 5 years no matter what happens. If you win the national title, you're good for, like, let's call it 20 years.
Yeah.
And that way, and then, like, if you win
But
2,
everybody else,
right.
your feet's to the fire.
Correct. And I think that's who cares about the relegation then
That's
if
what
not
I'm saying.
everybody?
Like, if of those 70, they say they can never be relegated.
Right.
Well, there are going to be some schools that just can't compete monetarily, and they're
Right.
just going to be like, why would we try to?
That's right. But, like, I love the idea of, let's say TCU, like a a program that's made it to the playoff, had a run, right? Mm-hmm. Then the pressure's like, oh crap, if TCU wins, they're going to be invincible for 20 years. And all of a sudden that opens it up that they can sign all these players. Like they could actually start taking risks. Like I like the idea of that. Because then, Paul, TCU shouldn't be 20 years of eligibility now. Like you start people, they lose their minds a little bit when that starts to happen.
I think the idea of implementing a salary cap too gets the schools back in control of the money.
Yes.
That's the part they don't have control of right now.
Right.
The money's the Wild
Well, it's all
West.
about power. The players have too much power right now. Of course, something was going to come down the pipeline.
Right. They can come and go as they please. They get whatever money they want, whatever you can afford to get. Well, you don't have enough, fine, I'll leave. If they put a salary cap in, it will limit at least that part of it. And if they can get sponsorships on their own, congratulations, you got sponsorships.
Well, what's going to happen here, too, is they're going to get their own PA, too. Like, they're going to get their own cut of the pie, too. There's going to be so much money that goes through this league. The players are going to get a cut of it, too. So, yeah, I mean, that's definitely
Super
happening.
League.